You don't.
I'm Raymond. You're watching RPadTV, and it is a crazy week in America. I know that some of you are feeling angry, sad, disappointed, all kinds of things, and gross. And at the very least, I hope Mac and I can distract you for the next hour and maybe even entertain you, because we're going to talk about something really important. Why?
Don't promise.
But always under deliver.
Yeah, totally.
So my guest today is MacLean Marshall, my excellent friend and longtime, or I guess still current,
Technically, yeah, still do it.
video games industry PR maven. And we have something important to talk about today. Why Robotech is the best 80s cartoon.
How did this come up between us the other day, even?
I think I just asked you, what was your favorite cartoon from the 80s?
Is that what I like? It's just out of the blue, and I was like, oh man, like I instantly go to Robotech. That's like, one of the ones that I remember. I think I told you, like, just once it was on, because I had no foreshadow, no context, no knowledge of it ahead of time. Once it was on TV as a cartoon, when I was a kid, like I would try and get home in time to see it, because like I don't want to have to like tape it on the VHS at the time, you know, and then try and get it after. So it was always a goal for me to be able to see it live.
But I was actually surprised and delighted that you mentioned Robotech, because for a lot of people in our age range, it's usually like Transformers or He-Man or something like that. And the 80s were
all of those, which I also watched too.
But. Yeah, they're all great. But for me, Robotech was far and away my favorite, for reasons that we'll get into later. But yeah, I just discovered Robotech randomly on TV and was immediately gripped. How about you?
Same thing. Like, and especially like, and I think this is what we will get into later on. It was such a, for the era, right? Like for the time, like it was next level like stuff. Like that was like one of the coolest, just both visually and like, the more I watch it now, like the story was compelling. Like it was just really an interesting and like totally different than everything else that was on TV as a cartoon at the time.
Yeah. For
almost
people
like
who
anime-ish kind of for me.
Same for a lot of people, this was their first discovery of anime. Not that it was the first anime that was brought to America. Right. You had Astro Boy, Speed Racers, Star Blazers, but for a lot of people, this is the one that really resonated. And for people not familiar with Robotech, it's actually 3 different anime series that they kind of mashed together to make one giant world. They rewrote characters' names and relationships. Music is a big part of the series. They rewrote songs, and they did an amazing job, especially at the time, of making it seem like this massive world that takes place over dozens of years. And that wasn't something they did that with Voltron as well, but the 3rd series never made it to America.
Well, when did Voltron come out? Was Voltron out before this or after this?
Voltron was the year before, I believe 1984. Robotech hit in 1985.
Okay.
And yeah, I loved Voltron too, but this was much cooler to me. So
yeah, I just again what I was saying like earlier when we were talking, like watching this as an adult, like it's no wonder to me like why it was such a fascinating show as a younger person.
Right.
It's got everything.
Yeah. Awesome characters, great writing, themes that we'll get into later. As you said, it was really next level compared to what we were watching, what was offered at the time.
Right.
But as you mentioned, this was the first for many in Gen X, for the first anime that resonated with people. And why do you think that is? Was it just all of the things we just mentioned? Or was that one thing? I mean, the mechs were cool. So.
And I honestly feel like the Veritech fighter jet is like the unsung main character of the whole show.
Oh yeah.
At least the very first series, right?
Yeah.
Like it's I don't know, like if I was drawn, like, because I don't know which way the inspiration goes, right? Because to me, that's also the exact same fighter jet that Skyfire in the Transformers was.
That is exactly correct.
And so you just like, I think at the time, if you were so hooked into like GoBots and Transformers, and then you almost like, and again, I don't remember if this was before any of that or after in the same kind of wheelhouse, but like it was just like a natural fit, like Mask, all these like futuristic vehicles, combat, like G.I. Joe cartoon, like all these things were kind of in that same wheelhouse. And it just felt like this one was there, but because it had that like first anime experience touch point for a lot of us, like it was different enough, but like not to the sense it would like throw you off.
Right.
Like if people don't like anime, like to me, even if you don't like anime, if you gave this a shot, you probably watch it.
Right. Yeah. It felt familiar, even though it was new and different and clearly Japanese, but it totally still felt familiar. And the Veritech was actually in Macross, which is what Series 1 is based on. That was before Jetfire. And I believe Jetfire / Skyfire, they licensed the mold of that toy for the Transformer toy. Yeah.
Like, and the other thing, it's like if you again watching just the first season, like it's a show that you could tell that so many people our age that are probably into sci-fi and like as a writer, producer, director, I feel like there's a unnamed amount of people who have like have seen this show, and it somehow has inspired so many different pieces of like up and future from that point on, like future sci-fi.
Absolutely. The next point I do want to talk about is the music. I mean, straight from the intro, the score is fantastic. It's just riveting. It fires you up.
It gets you going. Absolutely. Every time. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's one of those things where like you're almost waiting. Like once you've heard the music, you're almost kind of like waiting for them to get to the kind of action scene, so you get that like little boost of adrenaline from the music, because Rick or Roy or whoever's about to go up and Max or just whoop somebody's ass.
Right.
Like that's what that movie. You're just like, okay, we're getting to the good battle, right? Like
and shout out to Ulpio Manucci. I hope I said the first name correctly. I always mess that up. Who wrote the score for Robotech? And in addition to the intro theme, there's the fighter theme that you alluded to. There's the bad guy theme, which I always thought was cool too. But
okay, the thing that blew my mind, and like you have to go back and watch, and some of the earlier this particular like sad guitar riff, like like that is 100% in Top Gun.
Yes,
like that's the music they play in the background when Goose dies and Maverick's all sad.
Yes, and
it's nuts.
It made me scared of acoustic guitars for a while.
It's just so weird to like see and hear all these things like this far later on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, oh my God.
So in addition to the score, there's also some performed songs, which is in Series 1, Min Mei is the main musical character. I know you hate her.
I'm gonna hang up right now.
But after they get sucked into space in the SDF-1, Min Mei becomes this massive pop star. I guess she was like J-pop idol for the people.
I feel like this is Min Mei's whole character is because somebody just wanted to sing, like who was making the show, like and then like that was just their cathartic like way of getting that into like entertainment somehow.
Right. Well, I mean, in the original Macross, the Japanese one, the song is actually like a weaponized kind of thing that messes with the aliens. So they
made it more fun and poppy.
Yeah. But one of the things I love about it, even though I don't really like Min Mei's songs, but I love how they influenced the third series, the new generation. There's a character named Yellow Dancer who's a pop star, and Yellow Dancer actually does covers of some of Min Mei's songs, which I think is cool. It goes to how they made the world alive and span generations. So that
like I had no recollection on that point, right? Like I had no recollection that the second season was the story of Max and Miria's kid.
Yes, and
like
Claudia's
from the
son,
first season.
Claudia's son is in that too.
Yeah, and there's other like transitional characters, and then in the third series, like Rick Hunter comes, and I think Lisa come back. I got really overzealous. I'm like, I'm gonna watch all 3 series before we do this, and then like I literally just finished the last episode. There's 36 episodes in the first season.
That is ambitious.
Yeah, and they didn't need it, and I'll tell you why in a second. But like, it was a long, like, I'm like, oh man, I barely got through the first season, so I started reading through the episode synopsis for all the other ones. So I'm kind of mentally caught up in the brief description of each episode for the season 2 and 3. But man, I did not realize that.
Let's go on our first tangent, and I wanted to ask you, out of the 3 series, which one was your favorite and least favorite?
I think okay, so I think if I think on the whole, I really loved the first season because of how new and unique it was. Yeah. But what's always stuck in my like memory over the years is seeing bits and pieces of the third season and not feeling like I ever really finished it, but I've always wanted to. Right. So I remember like the cool motorcycle and I'm like, oh man, like but I don't have like enough of a recollection beyond I know that I liked it at the time. Like, I don't remember the story. I don't remember the characters. So that's why I'm kind of excited that, like, I think even after this is over, not today, but just in general, I'm going to continue watching season 2 and the third season as well. But it is funny because, again, going back to like watching all 36 episodes just now, how late into that first season they start to hint at, like, they name Max and Miria's dog. What's her name again? Dina. Right. And so like that, the names start coming out for characters that you're going to see in the next season. They mentioned the Invid for the first time about like almost like a 3/4 of the way through season 1. So it's neat. And I think like, I remember the Invid, but I don't. And that's like, I think that's probably why I like that. Those few episodes that I saw are the ones that stand out the most to me. And I want to go back and piece it all together. And that makes it my favorite, even though I haven't seen all of them or don't remember it all. It's weird.
For me, the third series is my favorite for a few reasons. One, that was the first one when I discovered the show. It was looping.
Oh, that's the first thing that you saw? You saw that one first before the other ones?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this local East Coast station would just keep looping them. So I would see series 1 and 2 as well. Okay. Just at the time I picked it up, it was time for series 3. But I also just like it's a smaller story because it's basically about 5 characters instead of, these large armies in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I just like 2. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like the mechs as much, partially. And this is stupid.
I remember they were very generic.
And they jumped around a lot. And I'm like, why are they like jumping like frogs?
They're doing the Hulk leap.
Yeah. Yes. And I didn't think that was as cool as these things that would fly around and transform into different.
No, that's totally the reason. Like, I don't think the second season resonated as hard as the first one did.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just the robots weren't as cool.
Yeah. And at that
age, like I said earlier about like the Veritech being like the unsung hero, actual main character of the whole first season.
Right. Like when I watched series 1, I wanted the Veritech toy.
I want one now. I want to go buy one on Amazon, maybe on Temu now or something. But like, I want to go get one of those. It's just it's still to this day one of the coolest things that like I'm genuinely surprised we don't have those IRL like in now.
One of my friends who was also a game journalist at Game Pro, I believe, Tim Eng. He's massively into toys and he has all this cool stuff. So, but yeah, and same with series 3, they had Veritechs and Cyclones, which were the motorcycles. I wanted those toys.
100%.
Series 2, I never wanted those toys.
Didn't care one bit.
Because they were jumping around like idiots. And,
they were more like tank focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not as cool.
Yeah. As I mentioned, this was a mashup of 3 series. Series 1 and 2 were sort of kind of related, not really, but they were part of this Japanese series called Super Dimension.
Okay.
Third, the new generation is based on this series called Genesis Climber Mospieda. I sent you the intro for the Japanese one, and
I
it's
didn't
like,
watch it yet. I need to.
it's so 80s. It's like cool guitar riffs,
Man, that's the fun part. I'm sitting
chicks.
here trying to watch this on my own, and I have like 15 and 17-year-old daughters, and my wife, who's just, like, they're coming home. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I told Ray I was going to watch this for our upcoming chat, which is absolutely just an excuse for me to sit back and watch like cartoons. But like either way, man, it was just I got like my older one who's more into anime has come in here a couple times and stood over my shoulder and like watched and gotten her attention for a couple minutes and then she'll go away. But she still hasn't been like, I'm gonna buckle in and see how this goes.
What did she think of it, by the way? I have no idea how this plays.
I hate it. She just like my they think that the art style is weird, like because it's just so dated. I think a contemporary remake of all of this is well overdue. First of all, right? Like, but like with a throwback, to that style, but like a contemporary remake, both visually and everything. We're long overdue for current Robotech.
So they have tried multiple times and failed.
But you and I haven't.
Yeah, but there's all these rights issues with it, and it's kind of all over the place. And there was a thing called Robotech Shadow Chronicles, which had a few episodes that takes place directly after series 3, and it started off cool, but they never finished it. I believe they novelized it, but I never.
You and I, Robotech, cheap ripoff, right? Instead of Rick, instead of Rick, it's Brick. Like we just keep that whole B thing going.
Brick Hauser,
Brick Brisa Hayes. Like everybody just has to be in front of everything just to keep clean.
I love it. Bin Bay. So, question.
Sure.
Min May and Lynn Kyle, are they related? Weren't they cousins?
Cousins, and then like there's a whole bunch of touchy feely, kissy, and then like I think I vaguely remember they got married or something. Maybe not. No, they didn't. I think I'm like so confused. There's 36 episodes. There's a lot to keep straight. But like there was definitely I just love that Kyle becomes whatever their actual like on paper relationship is. He just becomes like an abusive dick boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. And watching this now, I was like, I would punch that kid's like lights out if he was like dating like my daughter and talking like that. Like,
but wasn't he also like her manager too? So he was basically
he was like
Ike Turner.
Yeah, he like basically comes back out of nowhere, lures her in, tries to capitalize on her fame to boost his fame.
Right.
Then they become famous together and do a movie. And then, his every single scene I was saying, I just kind of click, just like fast forward 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just jump through them all.
And it's creepy because they're cousins.
It is creepy.
But then again, she's also, as you mentioned, she's 16.
So that's creepy for Rick too. Which I don't really have any kind of gauge about how old Rick is supposed to be in the show, but I mean, he is still chasing a 16-year-old, which is creepy enough to begin with. But then. Yeah, it gets weird. And
I believe you mentioned that he has that dorky plane in the first episode.
Yes, he
was flying for the circus. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, he used to be like that's how him and Roy Fokker like met. Like Roy Fokker's his big brother because they used to fly in his dad's flying circus, and then Roy apparently left to go join the
army or whatever
Air Force they call it. And then Rick tags along a few years later with this little putt plane flying over there.
So guys, I don't know what kind of circuses you've been to, but if you've ever been to any of these airplane circuses, let me know because I have no idea what that's supposed
to be. Maybe it just means air show. Like I don't know. Maybe it was just all. Who knows? But either way,
maybe something was lost in translation there. That's actually really likely. Now that you mentioned it. Didn't think about that, but that makes the most sense. So our next section is going to be pretty big. So I will take this time for a merch break.
Yo.
Guys, it is the holiday season. And if you are doing any holiday shopping for Hanukkah, Christmas, or just for the commercialism of it all, consider picking up some RPadTV gimmicks. We got t-shirts, sweatshirts, phone cases, tote bags, pillows, all kinds of stuff. I have direct links on rpad.tv/merch, or go to Amazon. It's available in numerous Amazon countries. So if you search for RPadTV on Amazon, a bunch of things should pop up. It would really help out the site. Yeah, and especially streaming is going to be more expensive next year. So I have to figure. I have to be more aggressive.
Streaming service soon. No.
Yeah. Right. So I think one of the best things about this show is the characters, as we were trading notes back and forth. I mean, there's so many firsts for us. You mentioned Claudia. It was cool seeing a Black woman being such a kick-ass.
That blew my mind watching it again, especially like now in today's society, right? Like you have Captain Global's a pimp because he's just on the bridge of the SDF-1 with a whole bridge crew, command crew of all women. There's never another guy in sight unless they're coming to say and like give him a message and then go away. Like it's basically him surrounded by a core group and a returning cast who stays through the whole 36 episode arc of like strong women characters.
Yeah.
In positions of power in general, in positions of power in the military. Like the show is just like so far ahead of things in just terms of so many things like that.
And yeah, we have one, two,
like interracial relationship between Roy Folker and Claudia. Like, it just doesn't end.
And we even had interspecies relationships.
Yeah, Max and
Miria on series 3. We would have Lancer and Sierra.
Yeah, it's like a very following Star Trek Gene Roddenberry, right? That was it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very kind of on the front end of acceptance and just this is the way things are in the future.
Yeah. I just realized I'm totally going out of order on our bullet points.
Oh, yeah. Well,
whatever. So we're enjoying.
We'll get there one way or another.
Yes. So I know you hated Min-Mei, but was there any characters in series 1 that
I don't know why? And I don't know why, aside of like very basic, stupid, like human elements here, Max somehow, when Max showed up as a character, he was automatically in my mind the best, the coolest. And again, I didn't expect any of the characters. Like as you start to watch that show, like I didn't know if it was going to be like a G.I. Joe where all the characters kind of stay alive throughout the whole series and make it right. So like having all of like Max show up and then be not only like a cool character, right? He looked different. He had cool like longer hair. He had glasses.
Right.
It's almost like the nerdy. You almost like asexual. You couldn't even know if he was a boy or a girl at one point, right? And then, but he also is like totally kicks ass, both like physically, like hand-to-hand combat, but also in the jet. Like, and the fact that his jet was blue, right, and everybody else was a different thing. And then I just love that the add-on to that is that when Miria becomes a thing, they give her like a red veritech just to sit up there like the red and blue like the whole time. I just thought it was super cool. But he was, I don't know why, but his story, everything about his injection into like the first series was the best to me. Rick was fun, but kind of like a whiny bitch.
Yes.
Right? Like, Min-Mei, we all know. Lynn Kyle. The best part about Rick, let me rewind. The best part about Rick is listening to Rick, the tone of his voice, and just how he says it when every time he references Kyle. It is with such jealousy and disgust, and it's just fantastic every time.
You could see like the smoke coming out of his
ears. Like, Lynn Kyle.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like he hates
it's that fucking guy again.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said Max, because he was my favorite in series 1 as well. I mean, he had the nerdy glasses, but he was the best squadron pilot.
Absolutely. He had the best scenes too. Like he breaks into the ship and picks and in a robot puts on a giant disguise and then hijacks them and tries to get them out of the ship like in his pocket. Like it's stuff like that was just he just always had like the best scenes.
He had cool blue hair, which actually inspired me later to get blue hair.
Oh, good.
And
I
he
also
hooks
have
up with a
hair.
green-haired alien.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and as you mentioned his storyline, I love that he was such a good pilot that the enemy pilot just became obsessed with him.
Yeah. And jealous.
And jealous and ends up defecting, and they end up having a
Yeah.
kid who is the main character in series 2, which is
very, again, just a super cool, unique character injection into, again, I still say, like, it was just such a good overall cast of characters in that whole show, right? Like, and again, going back to like ahead of its time, like what other show do you recall, like in the 80s, like that like off the main character like a third of the way through the season, like killing Boyd Volker and basically making Claudia go through depression for like this back half of the season.
So let's go. That's actually my point 7. But yeah, no. Let's go there. Let's stay. I mean, yeah, this was a massive thing. I was shocked when Roy died. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
like cartoon characters can die.
Yeah,
like I didn't know this was a thing.
In G.I. Joe, they jump out of the plane. Right?
They always have parachutes. Yeah. Even the bad guys, they always survive.
Yeah. So it was super interesting. That was like, oh man, they mean business. And then on the heels of that, by the way, you get Max and Ben at the same time. And you always kind of knew early on one of them. Like you always had this thought early on, okay, one of these two guys is toast. And then it becomes very apparent that Max is like the ace pilot. And I think a few times you think he might be the one to bite it, but and then they kill Ben too, and you're like, oh man, that was another kind of bummer.
So in the middle of this photo is Roy, who's Rick's mentor, and then Ben is to his left. He's in the yellow suit, and Ben was kind of like the funny.
Ben was Goose.
Yeah,
Ben was Goose as a pilot.
He kept everyone loose and happy in their squadron. So
yeah.
And to have him die. So Rick loses a member of his squadron and his mentor in a very short period of time. So it reminds me of that line in, I don't know if you are a fan of Basketball, that movie. Where I'm like, the world is shitting on Rick Hunter.
Maybe that's our, maybe that might be a future episode for us, by the way.
Oh, I love that movie.
Basketball review.
Like, yeah, Basketball it's so brilliantly
stupid. You a little bitch.
I heard your sister's dating Squeak.
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a good show.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, deaths in cartoons. This was shocking and traumatic, and and it prepared me from when Optimus Prime died. So that was good.
Yeah,
that came in handy.
Who was your favorite Zentradi? Right, I'll say that right.
Yeah, I liked the 3 guys that got shrunken down because I love their storyline where the 3 girls under Claudia.
Oh yeah, they take them to a disco.
Yeah, they basically become couples, but the girls are totally bossing these aliens around. These are when in their normal forms, they're like, I don't know, like 20 feet high or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
And they get shrunken down to to infiltrate the SDF-1 and learn about human culture. But instead they fall in love and find girlfriends, and actually they become these women's bitches. Pretty much.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But I still love that one of them, like early on, they steal a bunch of clothes and he dresses like a girl and has no idea he's doing anything wrong, and everybody's walking down the street laughing at him. And again, now nobody would care. In the 80s, that's a big deal.
Yes.
That was just a funny like little thing from the past of that one.
So before we started rolling, you mentioned that the Zentradi culture they're all males. What's going on here? How do they make more of them?
I think there's a lot of dude on dude stuff happening in that fleet.
There had to be, because
there were a couple, like, again, going back to watching some of the scenes between Commander Bretai and Exodor, like, there was a couple just like, yeah, those two are together. Like a moment.
And when they make Rick and Lisa kiss and they're just utter shock and disgust.
Yeah.
That scene always cracks me up. A man and a woman. Like,
yeah. Although I do imagine that's my wife's reaction as well. So.
So we kind of talked about mech design already. So I take it you're a Veritech guy.
Yeah, but I think I still love Roy Foker's, the Skull one.
Skull Squadron.
I think, but just that one with the skull and crossbones on, like, it was such an iconic thing for that too. And like I said, I love that they gave Max like the custom blue, and you would have thought they would have given Ben like a custom yellow one.
Yeah, to match
wasn't as like unique as Max's jet, and then like I said, Miri gets the red one. I just thought it was such a cool thing. And there were a lot of other cool vehicles and things in the show, but like nothing stands close to the Veritech stuff.
Veritech. Those are the best ones. Like I loved Amiria's. I thought hers looked the coolest because it was.
And it's like the cartoon equivalent, like motivation as like when the original Top Gun, even the new Top Gun, like you watch those and you want to be a fighter pilot, right?
Yeah.
Like you watch Top Gun and you're like, fuck yeah, like let's go. I should go to flight school. But like it's the same kind of feeling when you see those. I don't get any of those for like any of the other kind of things that they do. Yeah, any of the like the the pods, any of the different kind of mechs that you see.
I do like the Cyclones in Series 3.
I'm just talking first season because I haven't gotten back. But yeah, I also remember, like I said, I love the Cyclones. Those were so cool. I built those out of Legos afterwards.
That's awesome. So we kind of blew through this too, but let's keep going.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We can talk all day about this stuff.
Yeah.
I wrote a slew of notes.
So one of the things that was new for me in life, not just a cartoon, was that Yellow Dancer, the pop star in Series 3, is also Lancer. So that was the first drag character in a cartoon that I was aware of. So,
but I also don't remember caring. I remember it being different, but I don't remember like being like, oh, like weirded out by it. It was just like, oh, okay, like cool. Like
yeah, it was. I mean, they explained it partially because of the performance, but partially that was a way to hide from the invid.
Yeah,
to go and drag. But I remember Rand, before he knew they were the same person, just started crying when he discovered, because he was like a Yellow Dancer fanboy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And he just starts crying when
I'll
like, no.
I'll have to go be on the lookout for that scene when I watch. Oh,
this is the new generation crew. They also stuck with the color theme where Rook has the red Cyclone and the red outfit. And this was almost like the prototype of 80s cartoon teams. They did the same thing with Voltron, where the guy with the blue collar, you always have the leader, the second in command that gives the leader a tough time.
Yep.
The girl, the kid, and the fat guy. But here they have the drag pop star as well. But I love that they have these prototypes. I mean, these archetypes of characters. And Minmay, who I didn't use this screen before, but just trying to traumatize you because I know how much you hate her. What was it about her that you hated so much?
Well, first of all, she's annoying. Second, no, I think the biggest thing for me was just the overuse of the song. I think and like it's just and then you just like okay, I get it. So I kept just fast forwarded through that stuff because it is generally annoying. But then she was a bitch to Rick. She was a total tease. Like she led him on and on and on and on. And I think even as the season ends, it's kind of like, well, we love each other, but it's not going to work. And we're going to go our separate ways. And Rick's going to go chase, since we all agree that we're not going to be together, Rick's going to go try and bang Lisa now.
It's funny. I had a friend that is no longer with us. She was in video games PR, and she was all about Rick and Lisa. And I would just tease her about Rick and be like, Rick got Ben killed. How do you like him?
Seriously.
Rick picked the wrong girl. Why did he choose Lisa? It's like he could have had the pop star. She was famous. Even though I didn't believe it, I think Lisa was the much better choice for Rick. But I would
Yeah,
just mess with her.
I still think Claudia was probably the hottest one of everybody on the boat.
You know what it was? It was her light pink lipstick and her dark skin. I'm like,
I don't know
ooh.
what it was, man. She was like and the short hair, like it was just funny.
And she was just a boss.
Yeah,
I think the girls beneath her were kind of silly.
Yeah,
The way Lisa handled her feelings for Rick initially, I'm like, oh, just man up already, woman. You know,
yeah.
she was kind of wishy-washy.
I like how Lisa leveraged her professional relationship to like fuck with Rick's professional life, or her personal relationship to fuck with his professional life.
Yes,
like, times in the show.
This is a good lesson for kids to learn of how to be bosses.
Or just don't date from the company pool is a big, this is definitely an example of that. In some,
that's a better lesson to learn
in some scenarios. Yeah.
And if you happen to be younger before entering the workforce, this is a really valuable lesson to learn that will serve you well in life. Do not dip your ink in the company well. It's not worth it. Especially now that we actually have HR departments.
Yeah.
Like, God.
I'm reading through some of my other notes here from. Did we cover all the stuff on your bullets? I don't remember.
I think we did, but you had a lot of stuff as well.
Okay, this is another. These are some post notes that are from the later episodes after I sent you the first round. There is in season 1 in episode 30. There is a definitive. I think it's Chiron yelling at like his subordinates to like do something, and it's just like he does a full blown "I have spoken." Like, so again, well ahead of its time.
That the Mandalorian lifted from that.
I also thought it was funny how Chiron is never once ever held. Chiron's one of like he's not the main leader of the Zentradi forces,
right?
But he's certainly like a high ranking, like, general or lieutenant or something in there. And he's from day one that he's involved in the show, he's always trying to like basically just go around the rules and break the rules and essentially attack when he's not supposed to attack and trying to take command of the ship. Like, he's never once punished or held accountable for any of his activities whatsoever at all. Just continues like, it's like, oh, okay, I guess there's no punishment for doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That now that we've been talking about it more, the third point is something, the way this worked and the way Voltron worked, those are things we won't see again because we're much more global now. If something's cool in Japan, they'll just translate it right away. Like, it's something like Avatar but this was a thing that people did for cheap content back in the 80s, was to license anime and try to make their own thing out of it and sell their toys.
That's a world that doesn't exist anymore, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, licensing and syndication but now we have, just direct translations. We have streaming. So the phenomenon of this is so specifically 80s.
Another like weird inspiration thing that I saw on here was when they show like the broader shots of the Zentradi army or the fleet, and then they have like the big ship going into like the massive mothership. That is like 100% inspiration behind Independence Day.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like it was comically accurate at that point. Like, it was really funny to just see that scene. I was like, wait, somebody stole this from Independence. Like, the Independence Day stole this from this show. Like, so what?
Zach Morris is here. Sorry, I'm late. Are we talking Voltron? No, we have mentioned Voltron a few times. We are talking Robotech. Yes, we definitely can talk about Voltron at a future date. But yeah, this is about why Robotech is the best 80s cartoon. But if you think Voltron is a better cartoon, and there's a fair argument for that. And by the way, when I say it's the best 80s cartoon, I don't really mean it
like as in the best. It's just one of the best. It's a great freaking cartoon from the 80s.
It's my favorite. Because like things like music, cartoons, movies, TV shows, they're not, I hate when people like rank them, but it gets clicks, it gets views. It's not the fucking Olympics. They're not like runners where you can objectively, say.
If I were to list out like the top cartoons of the era that shaped like my sense of like this, like Robotech is definitely in there, right? Transformers 100% in there.
Yeah.
Voltron,
Voltron for
absolutely
sure.
in there.
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe for sure. You could eat like I don't know where in this, definitely not top 5, maybe top 10. Like Thundercats is in there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely Thundercats. Wow.
GoBots I watched before they became the Transformers.
Yes.
Uh, well, yeah, there's a whole, but again, like all these just stick out with like such good memories.
Yeah. Although I always thought GoBots were like the Timu Transformers or
That's absolutely were. Leader One, like
yeah.
Cop Tour, like they're
Ooh,
terrible, terrible
Silverhawks.
names.
That I
Oh,
like Silverhawks.
yeah,
That's a good one. That does that stream
forgot about
anywhere
that.
these days?
Where could you even find that?
Yeah. You mentioned Mask earlier. Those were some cool
Mask,
toys.
He-Man, and She-Ra
And
cartoons. Like, those all basically shaped like my love for sci-fi and nerd video games and all the stuff that we ended up doing in life.
I think I mentioned this when we talked about the Kevin Smith He-Man series, but I
Hmm?
always thought She-Ra's sword was sexist because He-Man's sword was a sword, but hers can like turn into a rope or a ladder or whatever. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, they're because they're making her have these extra powers because she's a girl, like she
oh,
can't
she
do
likes to
it.
climb.
I don't, she didn't need all these gimmicks. She could kick ass on her own, which as she does later on in the more recent cartoon series.
Yeah, I mean, I would love, if nothing else, like the takeaway from this episode is I would still love in the next handful of years to see a live action
Ooh.
using contemporary CG, but not like the overly done kind.
Yeah.
Like not too like I want to see a legit Robotech either series or man, I didn't even think about that because I was gonna say movie. And now I think like you saw like if they did it as like a series on like an Amazon or something like that, and almost at like the equivalent quality level of like The Expanse, right?
Oh.
Or something like that, where it's just like deep involved, but it's like real, not like animated or anything. Like I think that'd be such a fun series to watch if done right. Obviously, like
So guys, let's go down the rabbit hole a bit more and throw out some more 80s and 90s cartoons that you loved. One that popped into my mind, I don't know if it was popular or not, was a Mighty Orbots. I don't know if you watched that one, but
ooh,
they had a robot named Crunch who had these like perforated teeth. They had two girl robots that they kind of sex up. Carlos has a comment. According to the interwebs, you can stream Silverhawks on what the hell is Hoopla? I don't know that
or
one.
buy it on Apple, Amazon. So I ended up having to buy the first season of Robotech on Crunchyroll.
Yes,
So I got like a 7-day. I need to can. I'm probably getting charged right now, but I need to cancel the 7-day trial because I think it took longer than that.
it's a lot, as you
And
mentioned.
season 2 also not free, which is bullshit. But
Oh man,
yeah,
it's funny. I don't
Hashtag
have this digitally. I looked in my nerd closet.
I did too. I thought I owned it.
I owned 3 VHS tapes of New Generation,
Oh, how funny!
and I still have DVDs of New Generation and Macross, but not Southern Cross.
Yeah, I got confused because I have like the whole box set of like, I thought I had a box set of Robotech stuff, but it didn't. It was actually a box set of Transformers, like
Okay,
the original series.
Zach Morris brings up Turbo Teen from the 80s. This scared me. I did not like when his face turned into the grill of the car. I always got like creeped out by that. He was this literal teenager that can turn into an automobile, like not a
I totally
transformer.
remember this.
Yeah. Like I did not like when his face turned into the grill of the car. It
Oh,
always
that's so
creeped
funny.
me out.
I absolutely forgot about that.
Hoopla is a free service that is tied to your no shit. This sounds awesome. Wow. That's a wonderful thing. Why has nobody told me about this before?
I couldn't even tell you the last time I was in a library, so there's that.
I don't remember the last time I was in a
wife
public library. I've been into college libraries.
That was the last time I was in a real library. It was in college.
It's like I was visiting my friend who was in college at the time, and that's probably I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, as your PR person, I advise you to tell a different story.
Oh, This is Battle of the Planets, which was G-Force is also the cartoon. In Japan, it was called Gotcha Man, but I love that too. They revoiced the character. The main character was voiced by Casey Kasem in America. Voice actors. So Yellow Dancer or Lancer slash Yellow Dancer and Max, our blue-haired angel here. He's voiced by Cam Clark, who has done countless video games and cartoons, and is one of my favorite voice actors ever.
American voice actor Cam Clark. Oh yeah.
He's been in a lot of Activision games from your time.
A weird, bizarro version, look like bizarro version of Hugh Jackman almost in his face.
Huh. Not anymore though. He's got to be.
No, I'm just like whatever I googled, this like comes up as like it's like real quick. It's like got like a Hugh Jackman look to him.
I remember. I forgot the name of Rick Hunter's American voice actor. I think it's Tony something.
Yeah, he's got a whiny voice.
But I remember seeing him in Comic-Con back in, it was like early 2000s or something. And I was disappointed that it was like some middle-aged fat guy. That sounds horrible and shallow for me to say and petty. And it absolutely is. I think I was in my 20s at the time. But yeah, that was bad.
Who's the guy who does the voice for Deadpool? Nolan North?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember meeting him a few times, just speaking of like me, voice actors for cartoons and like Comic-Cons, and because I worked on that Deadpool game, I got to do some stuff with him once. He was super cool.
And I didn't flash the series 2 graphic because I like this one the least. But yeah, look at their stupid mechs.
Oh.
Those things sucked. They turned into frog jumping tanks.
Dumb.
Yeah, like I would not buy this toy. Like this is
and again, no hair anywhere near as cool as Max's or Rick's anywhere to be seen.
Yeah. Miria's, although Roy's has the skull.
Yeah, Roy and Rick, like even Ben's hair, all great hair.
Yes, and as I mentioned, Max here with the blue hair. That is why I had blue hair later in life.
Even look at that mech in the background right there. Like that just makes you go, fuck yeah, let's watch this shit. Right? The other, just like you said, you look at the other thing, you're like, meh.
So I never understood the Guardian mode. I understood when it's an airplane. I understood when it's a robot, but I'd never understood the point of that in-between mode where it was like a plane with legs. I always thought it was
for like I don't know, like see you had the low altitude like mobility of the jet, like so you're just not on 2 feet, but like you had the arms to be able to fight as a robot and still shoot with like a handgun or a rifle, if you want to call it, like whatever.
Okay, did you always think that? Because that's much.
Yeah, I always like it was, to me it was like that was them. Like if you go back to like any of the times that the battles kind of exploded into like Macross City or anything aboard the SDF-1 on the city streets, like you would see them like going super low altitude, just like hovering above street level, but blasting out like down the whole block in that mode versus flying down the street probably faster in like a jet mode, which you wouldn't be able to control it.
You were a much smarter kid than I was. None of these things occurred to me.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I again, this is like you're talking about like a vehicle just in general that I fell in love with as a kid, and I was like, oh man, like this is the coolest.
Carlos says these mechs remind me of the Mobile Gundam one.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And so the SDF-1, which was the big battleship / city they moved in, I believe it crashed into Earth in the cartoon in 1999. And one of my friends in college, Winston, was super into Robotech as well. And he would be like, the SDF-1 is like crashing down here in like, I don't know, whatever, how many years. And I'm like, dude, it's not real.
We don't know. Maybe it is.
Well, 1999 passed and there was no SDF-1.
Oh, well, yeah. Maybe we're just late.
That we know of. Or it could be a government cover-up.
But that's the thing too, right? Like they go, oh, the Robotech Masters are on their way, but it takes like another 15 years before they even show up close to the Earth at that point in season 2. So that was a whole nother layer to that show as it progressed from like season 1 to season 2 to season 3. Like the Robotech Masters was kind of like, all right, wait,
right.
Like it seemed like they were running out of ideas a little bit, almost like, later episodes of Lost. Right? Like you get to like the last 5 or 6 episodes in season 1, and to be honest, like almost all of those are basically throwaway because all they do is focus on the relationship.
Yeah.
Rick, Mid-May, and Lisa.
Yeah.
But like there's no real show happening there. So it could have been like 4 or 5 episodes less.
Maybe that's what the kids wanted in Japan at the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right that nothing progressed much with the main plot towards the end there. It was about the love triangle.
It just stalled out.
But I do love that we had the distinct bad guys of the Zentradi, the Robotech Masters, and the Invid, and they wrote them that they were aware of each other and had their own conflicts. So in addition to the aliens having conflicts with the humans, I mean, it's just another example of how the writers mashed these 3 series into this one awesome universe that you and I just were totally captivated by.
Yeah, it's super weird too, right? Because like I don't remember as many things from my like youth as well as I remember how much I enjoyed shows like Robotech and some of the other ones we mentioned. Like I said, I came home from school, I didn't do my homework, I watched cartoons until I got yelled at.
Yeah,
and that was life.
We got to watch our guys die. We got to watch the drag freedom fighter. Yeah, this was just pretty amazing and heady cartoon. Love triangles bring in the views.
True. There's smart writing on that front then.
Yeah. Well, especially at the time, we were like on the cusp of discovering girls.
Oh yeah.
So maybe that also worked.
And even then, I didn't have a thing for Min-May.
Because you were smart. You like the
found her annoying. Even then,
you like the intelligent career woman, not the
reminded probably going to give me better insurance.
That's right. That's right. She outranked him, so he had to have all kinds of benefits.
Yeah, totally. Like Rick. At the end of the day, made the smart move, right? Like set for life, government pension. Like
that's right. And then I think by the time series 3 rolls around, he is Admiral Hunter.
Yeah, like so I don't know how much you remember. I have this very weird recollection. Like I said, I remember it's bits and pieces of the third. Does Roy Folker somehow ever come back as he's actually alive?
Nope.
Okay. That's just some weird nugget that's just in my head for no reason.
He perma-died.
He had a true death.
Yeah. Unlike comics and most other
things. It's not out of the question to be like, oh, it was a clone and we faked my death because I had to go do this other thing that we're now just finding about at the end of season 3.
Yeah. No, they didn't do a cop-out Optimus Prime thing with him. Roy and Ben here, they actually died.
True deaths.
Yes, which was more traumatic.
Ben was a true death to the same extent as when Harry Connick Jr. dies in Independence Day.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes. He was in the squadron under Will Smith's command, or in this case, Rick Hunter's command.
Yep.
And he got blowed up.
He got bloated up.
So interspecies. So what do you make like? I mean, I know they're both humanoid species, but did these interspecies relationships inspire any sort of deviant behavior? Did some kid watch this and be like, oh, I'm gonna date a cow now?
You know what though? You said it earlier too. Like I had my hair was every color of growing up, right? Like so you see things like this, and maybe it was like some sort of inspirational thing that I didn't know it was at the time.
Oh, mine was definitely inspired by Robotech, by Max in particular. I was a total Max fanboy.
I grew up playing soccer and was always like really grossly sickly thin up until I became an adult. And but so I would always like have like different hair to try and look like scary, or maybe that's not the guy you want to like play against or whatever. just to look a little off.
Just intimidated.
Yes.
Yeah.
and because normally people like me can't intimidate anybody. So,
but I think that will be a wrap on our
yeah,
discussion on Robotech.
I'm glad we did it. It's funny, it just came out of the blue.
Yeah, and Zach Morris mentioned Voltron. If you'd like us to do Voltron, or find these like weird '80s cartoons like Turbo Teen, which I totally forgot about until you mentioned it.
That image is gonna haunt me.
It's weird, man. I don't like it. We will be back next week, Carlos and I, and I'm going to try to rope either you or Paul into it if I can con you into
which one?
Binging Penguin, which is shockingly way better than I expected. But we're going to do our Penguin review next week. Then we're back the week after, the week before Thanksgiving, to talk about nerdy things we are thankful for in 2024. You never have to apologize to us, Zach. We're happy you can hang out whenever you have time to hang out.
I'm going to take a different route and say apology accepted. We've never met, and good.
You never met Zach Morris? You've never been Saved by the Bell?
Not recently.
That was one of our stupid college shows that we would go to watch instead of going.
My wife watched that show religiously, as did a handful, like you're admitting to now. Like so many people. I never got into that show. I only got into that show like super late. And again, it's not like any other show where I've seen every episode and I don't remember them. I think I've seen.
Kelly Kapowski was hot, man.
I've maybe seen 10 episodes of Saved by the Bell tops.
Ooh, Mac, do you know this one? The Mysterious Cities of Gold. I do not remember this one.
Let me try the Google.
Yeah, I remember. Do you remember the show Spartacus, which was on Nickelodeon?
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah, I don't remember this at all.
With the intro by Menudo. Whoa.
Yeah, then my taste devolved into like Ren and Stimpy and a variety of other terrible cartoons.
I'm totally unaware of this cartoon.
I've never even seen that one.
But it looks pretty dope. Characters look cool. Where did
Carlos just pulled the cartoon out of a different realm.
He invented it. Totally as an adult. Oh, that is true. I have heard the adult version of Zach Morris has grown up to be not so cool.
Oh, really? Like he's not a good human in general?
Yeah. But I don't know. I think we ended up okay in general. I mean, I don't mind losing Kid Rock. I mean, they can have Kid Rock and Chachi.
Did anybody really lose?
Yeah. The one that disappoints me as an adult is The Undertaker, because as a wrestling nerd, Taker is just cool, and as I learned more about the business, he was like the locker room glue.
Did you see that? I saw a funny meme just recently where it's basically like Kid Rock looks like Dr. Phil dressed up for Halloween with Kid Rock.
No, that's outstanding though.
And if you see it, like just Google that if you can find it, and that image is like, yep, that's what it is. That's what he looks like.
Fantastic. But we got some great suggestions for you guys. I think we definitely have to do a Voltron thing. I think we have to do a Thundercats thing.
New and old, I think, because with Thundercats for sure sometime down the road. But Voltron, because there's the newer series that was on Netflix, and then there's the OG.
That was outstanding. Yeah, I love the Netflix one. Yeah. And we have some December things coming up too. I was just chatting with Paul randomly, and we both mentioned that it is the 50-year anniversary of a pair of Mel Brooks movies, Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles.
Just watched that.
Oh, was that your first time watching?
No. It was on the other day.
Outstanding movies that I loved as a kid and got to appreciate.
Young Frankenstein and what?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the bean farting scene. Oh yeah, dude, come on.
And those movies have aged shockingly well. I mean,
a Black Sheriff.
Yes. But
that show again, that movie was so great. Still is
outstanding. Candy Game from Mongo. Just
yeah. And there's a Spaceballs 2 coming, by the way. Speaking of Mel Brooks,
there's the Spaceballs 2.
I've been waiting for that since Spaceballs 1. So
there's a Happy Gilmore 2 that they're working on.
I'm worried about that one.
Well, they got back Sandler, obviously, but they got Chris McDonald. Is that his name? And then the girl from Modern Family, Julie Bowen. Yeah. So they got them back. Obviously, Apollo died.
Does Sandler still carry it for you? Like he did in the past? Like to me, he's, and it's just like his recent stand-up thing that he did was just like almost like you were a real hardcore Sandler fan to sit through that.
Right. Yeah, but I kind of get it. He got that sweet Netflix deal and he can just make movies with his friends. So
yeah, it wasn't even a movie. Like his stand-up thing is just like, hey, just go on stage and
right. But I mean, things like
around for an hour.
like what was that Western movie he did with his friends?
That was actually funny. I like that movie. Not because it was a good movie,
right?
I liked it because I went into that with the expectation like, oh, this is going to be terrible, but I'll probably laugh.
Zach Morris says Gene Wilder was so good. Yeah, not just in Blazing Saddles, but
everything.
We actually talked about this. Like, if you look at Gene Wilder movies like Blazing Saddle, like Willy Wonka, it's hard to picture anyone else playing his roles as well. I mean, we've seen 2 inferior Willy Wonkas since then. And he just had this perfect combination of wild-eyed innocence, but also, is this guy fucking insane? I love that. Larry, last Sandler movie I enjoyed was That's My Boy. I like that movie a lot more than most. Vanilla Ice is hilarious. Was Funny People before or after that? Because that's another one that I really like. But most
is that the like more straight, like not funny?
Yeah, it's the Apatow movie. Seth Rogen. Yeah.
Okay. Not like a hard comedy like the other ones.
No. Oh yeah, it's definitely dramedy.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that movie a lot.
Oh man. I mean, I don't know. His last stand-up thing kind of was just like, ugh, really? Like,
No, I mean, and I hate to say it because he's absolutely a legend, but it's clear that he's phoning things in.
Yeah,
he has every right to. I don't want to. Yeah, I'm looking at his IMDb now, so I'm trying to figure out what movies.
And if Rob, what's his name? Like that guy, like his sidekick that's in every movie.
Rob Schneider, who also turned MAGA.
Yeah, like at this point, he's a turnoff to me.
He is part Filipino, so I apologize on behalf of the people.
Again, apology accepted. And
Uncut Gems, Carlos. You did you not see that? That is way after That's My Boy, and Uncut Gems is fantastic. And that is 2019. Yeah. The Ridiculous Six was the cowboy one we were talking about.
And Taylor Lautner's in that, I think. Who's the
werewolf?
Yeah, there's a handful of people in that movie that play like really, really bad, funny roles, but I gotta look that up now. Hold on.
I remember Taylor Lautner being in Grown Ups too. Blended was 2014. I actually like that movie. That's the one with Drew Barrymore where they vacation in Africa.
Yeah, Taylor Lautner, Rob Schneider, Luke Wilson, Jorge Garcia, Terry Crews is in this. Yeah, I remember Taylor Lautner's character plays like a mentally challenged, like a severely like
really?
mentally deficient, like uneducated Western kid.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to watch that back.
Nick Swartzen's in it. He's in everything.
I like him.
He's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite comedic characters, like actors ever.
He was just on the Tiger Belly podcast, Bobby Lee's podcast, and
and he just he did a stand-up thing that was on like a new one that was on Netflix or one of them. Like I just watched it.
I think we talked about this when we talked about Grandma's Boy. That thing he had that incident in Denver where he
Oh yeah.
so he talked about that on Tiger Belly. He said he got high before the show and he knew he shouldn't have gotten that high and then just totally freaked out.
It just blew out.
Carlos mentioned Terry Crews steals the show in Blended. Completely agree. He is the lead singer in Tattoo, the music troupe. So
I have to go watch Blended now.
Is
it a movie or a show?
It's a movie. It's a rom-com with Drew Barrymore.
Oh, I have seen that one. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
She was just talking, I think it was this week or maybe it was last week, where Drew Barrymore was talking about her kid and Sandler's kid. They were hanging out together and they were watching 50 First Dates.
Right.
And they're like, aren't you guys sick of us enough already? And like, gonna watch a movie with us in it. But I think that's so cute that their kids are doing that. But yes, join us next week where 3 or 4 of us will be talking about Penguin. And
I will try. I will be in San Diego at the esteemed Turtle Beach headquarters mostly all week. So staying in a hotel so I can binge watch as much of Penguin as possible before Thursday. If I can get it done, I will.
Yeah. And guys, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate all the chat comments and the likes. And we'll see you next time. And we're going to be hanging out here to keep you entertained and distracted because times are weird. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
See you later.